Good evening, students, faculty, and staff of the King's College. Over a decade ago, our house came into being when a group of men envisioned a community in the city thriving, not just surviving. Yet the history of our house is always a story unfinished, with its trajectory defined by each generation. Our history need not be idealized. Our difficulties, differences, and failures have defined our identity just as much as our capacity to succeed. Who are we? We are the House of Sir Winston Churchill.
Houses are not homogeneous. They are comprised of individuals, each with their own identity and character that shape the house. In understanding the history of the House of Sir Winston Churchill, the greatest mistake would be to say that any one Churchill is a typical Churchill.
I think those early years there was an interest in building something, and there we really, it was like building a plane in the air, right? We had an idea of what it was supposed to be, but we didn't know which pieces were supposed to go together.
Noah was a part of Churchill's founding generation. He and his fellow house members had the task and the burden of setting the foundation for what the house would later become.
We wrote the core values of the House of Churchill, and we defined what they were, and then really planned and thought through what we wanted the house to look like. You know, setting the mission statement and the foundation.
It is easy to forget that houses are led by people often no older than 20, and are tasked with shaping the character of their peers during their most formative years.
I would say it was a lot of the house competitions, because in the absence of house traditions, that was what we did, and that was what we shaped ourselves around. So there's a lot of adversity in that. A lot of feeling like we maybe wouldn't be able to rise to the challenge, but if everybody chipped in, it was sort of the expectation that we would, and we did.
The history of Churchill, much like the history of any house, is not defined just by triumphs and success.
Right before interregnum, and he just said, you know, guys, it's great that you want to have fun, and it's great that you guys are silly and joking about everything, but one of our house values is excellence, and you know, we can be Churchill after the competition and laugh about it and be funny, but we also got to be Churchill during the competition and before the competition.
Every house, from the exec team members to the students, must contend both with the challenges they faced and their failures.
I wish I'd been more attentive to the needs of my house. I think I was torn between, you know, some of the other things the school had to offer. Of course, classes were brutal sometimes, so I took time there. And one of my regrets is not spending the unplanned time.
During the period while Andrew attended King's, Churchill was experiencing the growing pains of developing as a house.
It was sort of a place of constant change, but it's hard to say that it went from point A to point B. You know, we had 3 or 4 different phases of presidents, school presidents over the time period. Expanded into new space. I think it definitely got a better sense of clearly going to endure for time as I was there. But there was still a lot of flux when I left even.
The House of Churchill of 10 years ago and the King's College at large would be unrecognizable to students of today.
The nice thing was going to the Empire State Building every day, you felt more professional dressing up, and we wanted to have an excuse for wearing bow ties. So, and then the following year, my second year as president, there was even more change. We got more involved at the front end with bringing people into the house. We actually had this induction ceremony that we did. It was probably considered hazing at the time, so we put the kibosh on some of the practices that we did.
The drive to become better men and the commitment to overcoming adversity through excellence has never changed and has bound each generation of Churchill together.
There was an atheist speaker that came one year, and she gave an excellent talk, and afterward, the conversation was opened up. People could ask questions. And there was a lot of disrespect, sad to say. There was a lot of disrespect coming from the student body toward her. Just kind of glossing over her opinions because, she didn't believe what we did. After that conversation, the current president, Dylan Tinney, sent an email to the House, and he said, guys, I'm not blaming anybody, but there's something you need to remember to be a man. Speak your opinion, speak it well, but don't be an ass. And I think Churchill has not done that perfectly, but I think there are many instances of taking that to heart.
In David Leedy and Anthony Bradley, Churchill has been blessed with some of the most active advisors at the King's College.
More seriously, one thing I really like about the house is a lot of what Anthony Bradley has brought to it.
David Leedy immediately stuck out to me. I know that's kind of cheating, but if you've met David Leedy, it's pretty fair because he starts talking about really inappropriate things like very, very quickly in a conversation, so he really sticks in there, whether you like it or not. It is hard to put into words just how much they have done for this house.
No challenge has persisted longer for Churchill than the failure to sustain academic excellence across the House. While Churchill won GPA competition 1 year, it has since remained an elusive goal.
You know, others, it seemed like the academics came easily too, but to our house we had to work at it. But that, I think, characterized our house more than anything, was this idea of working and working together towards something.
And it was hard on morale within the house, especially if a favorite person would leave.
Yeah, I think that's just an example of when the guys are too flippant about something. And the more that happens, I'm sure the easier it is. But then you get guys that speak to areas like that and can try to rally it.
For many at King's, the first impression of Churchill comes at drama comp.
If there was a time, it was probably the milk skit, A Fall Retreat. Don't know if you're familiar with it, but it was a big sort of first victory for the house. The theme of Interregnum that year was difficulty. And basically it had to be the entire house because there weren't that many guys. We built a human pyramid and poured milk on ourselves. So it was a lot of fun.
Also, there were female parts written into the performances, and, it's a male house, so guys in dresses.
No matter the graduation year, every member of the House has an understanding of what it means to say, Churchill till I die.
We did Churchill till I die very quietly and respectfully right before I walked up the aisle. Me and my groomsmen put our hands in, and just once, we just, Churchill till I die, the song. And I don't know, that was a great moment for me.
Being that man of character that we strived to be when we were in college, and we didn't have, some of the experience that I now have.
While Churchill is serious in its commitment to raising virtuous statesmen, they have never been a house that has taken themselves too seriously.
The House of Churchill faces things with a really good sense of humor. And it may not even just in a comedy sense, but just in always kind of coming at things with a smile.
Even if it gets hard, even if you don't know how to fit people in, or all these challenges that might be happening about adapting to a larger group of students, just never give up and never take it so seriously that you have everything riding on one event or one time that went poorly.
A house's identity is fluid. A student only has their 4 short years to define their house before it slips away to the domain of the next generation.
There are a lot of guys that took a lot of, that made a lot of sacrifices, went through a lot of pain to give the house the opportunity it has now. But at least the opportunities that it had, certainly when I was there. And have fun, but remember to respect that.